Hey there, good looking. Stick around to this episode of Ask PJ Anything. We're talking all about lunges as well as some great alternatives to the lunge pattern. So buckle up and let's get started. Hello there and welcome. My name is PJ Wren, and if you're unfamiliar with who the heck I am, I've been a certified personal trainer, fitness instructor, and coach for nearly 3 decades. And this is where women, and a few good men, over the age of 40 come to work on living their fittest and fiercest life. Hey, it's super awesome to have you pop onto this video series. It's one that we call Ask PJ Anything. And it's here where my amazing Patreon and YouTube community can ask me questions. And you can ask questions regarding health, nutrition, fitness, and anything in between those. So listen up. If you have a question, feel free to hit up the link. I put it in the description down below, and we may feature it in a future episode. All right, let's begin. Christine from South Carolina asks, do you work the same muscles when doing front lunges as opposed to back lunges? Hey, Christine. I'm assuming when you say front lunges, you mean a forward lunge, so where you step forward and come down, and then a back lunge, or what we call a reverse lunge, where you step backwards and come down. I'm waiting for you to go, yeah, PJ, that's it. Anyways, just a little FYI for you two as well, guys. You may hear lunges also called split squats. The difference lies on whether there's movement with the exercise. So if it's stationary, your feet are set up in that lunge pattern and you're simply going up and down, then you may hear some trainers call this a split squat. Now, if there's motion with the exercise like stepping or walking, then you may hear some trainers call those lunges. However, most of us will call a lunge. Now, as for your question, Christine, each exercise essentially targets the same muscles. A lunge is perfect exercise to train the quads, glutes, hamstrings. We get a bit of calves as well as the core. But a reverse lunge tends to hit the glutes and upper hamstrings a bit more while taking some of the pressure off of the knees. You can also get more glute involvement in either lunge pattern by hinging forward slightly in the upper body. I find that for some people, this really relieves a lot of the pressure on their knees and makes a lunge doable for them. Just make sure when you are hinging, it's coming from the hips, you guys, and you're not simply just rounding the spine. Now, either way, a lunge is a super important movement pattern and one that will keep your knees and your hips healthy and strong. All right, the next question comes from my buddy Fatima from Portugal, and she's wondering, hey, I'd like to know which exercise I can sub for the lateral lunge. Hello, Fatima. The lateral lunge involves a step out to the side instead of forward and back like we were just talking about this. Now, because of this lateral movement, the inside of the groin, the adductor muscles, are more active in this variation of a lunge than any other lunge pattern. We also do them a lot in my warm-ups. So sorry, Fatima, if they bother your knees, because they move the hips out of this linear pathway that we tend to get stuck in and gets the hips into a side-to-side motion, which we need to keep up, especially as we get older. However, this exercise isn't for everyone, including my friend Fatima. Now, here are some alternatives to any lunge pattern. So this is whether you can't do a split squat, a lunge, or a lateral lunge. I want you to choose one of the following when it appears in your workout when your knees just aren't feeling the lunge love. Deal? All right. First off, if the instructor is alternating their legs during their set, then I recommend a 2-leg bridge, deadlift, squats, or if you want no movement in the knees but you still want to get the quads and hammies super activated, a wall sit is a really good alternative. Now, if the instructor is performing a full set of lunges with the same leg, so either stationary or the same leg is stepping forward, backward, or to the side for the full set, then I would recommend that you do a standing fire hydrant, or turn your bridges into a one-legged bridge, or try side lying side leg lifts, 1-leg deadlift, or my favorite hip exercise, the side plank to clam lift. It's a killer. And then when the instructor switches lead legs, you would simply move to the other side of that one-legged move that you were performing. Now, before all of you get rid of lunges completely, though, I urge you to do a couple of things, okay? First, recheck your form. And then second, perhaps try a little limited range of motion. Or perhaps even try that hip hinge I mentioned in the earlier question. Because your knees were meant to bend, and the less we bend them, the more difficult it will become. My favorite saying applies to this: motion is lotion. All right, Rosie from Australia wants to know, how do I structure an eccentric weights program? Hello, Rosie from Australia. I'm curious why you need an eccentric weight training program. But for those of you who are unfamiliar with this term, resistance training involves two types of movements, concentric and eccentric, and then one type of movement called isometric, where there's absolutely no movement in the joint. A concentric contraction is when the muscle shortens, and an eccentric contraction is when it lengthens. A really good example of this is a bicep curl. As you lift the bicep up, your muscle is shortening, your bicep is shortening, so it's concentrically contracting, and then when you lower it, your muscle is lengthening, and it's eccentrically contracting. Or you could hold the dumbbell mid-rep, not move the joint at all, and now it becomes an isometric contraction. A really common isometric contraction in my workouts is a wall sit. Now, to answer your question, Rosie, if you're using dumbbells, and you want to, accentuate the eccentric contraction, I recommend slowing down that part of the exercise. So for your bicep curl, you would take 1 to 2 seconds to lift your concentric phase, and then 4 to 5 seconds to lower your eccentric phase. This is also called tempo training. By controlling the eccentric portion of a lift, instead of just letting that dumbbell drop, is a really nice way to overload the muscle and create mechanical tension. And that mechanical tension ultimately leads to muscle growth, which is what we're all looking for. In addition to building muscle size, some of the strength you'll gain with a more controlled eccentric lift, okay, so as you lower it slowly, it's going to transfer to your joints and tendons as well. But please note, guys, that you need both concentric and eccentric movements. They are equally important for muscle growth and during resistance training, for resistance training, and they will keep you functionally fit. Moral of the story, go out there and lift. All right. Last question, Pippi from California wants to know, can I build glute muscles, tone my glutes by doing floor exercises like donkey kicks, for example? I know we need weights and resistance to build muscle, but when I use ankle weights, it affects my form. I can't do a full range of motion very well. Can I still build muscle without using my ankle weights and just using body weight? Also, when I lift my legs, do I lift them fast or slow? That's a lot there, Pippi. All right. Hi, Pippi. It's a good question. Now, to answer it, it really depends on where you are in your fitness journey. I'm sorry, I can't give you, a definitive answer here, but beginners will see growth a lot more quicker with minimum amount of weight needed. As you get more fit, as you get stronger, you need to apply more stimulus to create muscle growth. We discussed this in a previous Ask PJ Anything. We talked about the two things that muscles need to build, and these are intensity, so having enough weight to challenge the muscles, and adequate protein in your diet. You need them both. Now, when it comes to how to grow your glutes, the best glute exercises, now they're going to vary individually, but generally to grow your glutes, you're going to want to ensure that you're training them with at least one exercise from each of the following 4 categories. So we hit all of the glute muscles. You want to add a thrust or bridge exercise, and then a squat or lunge exercise, a hinge pull exercise, and an abduction movement. Donkey kicks are great, but you know what? An even better routine, here's a free routine for you. I would do a single leg hip thrust, and then add a weighted squat, and then move into a deadlift variation, and then complete your workout with my fave, side plank clam lift. Start with 4 to 6 sets of each move, 10 to 12 reps, training the muscle to fatigue by the end of each set. Hey, thank you so much for joining me. Listen, you can help this video by clicking that like button so it gets noticed by the YouTube algorithm. Come on. Thank you. And remember, as I mentioned earlier, if you have a question, there is a link down below to submit yours. And if you are looking for more workouts, fit tips, nutrition advice, as well as motivation and workout calendars to keep your momentum going, hey, come over and join us on Over 50 Fitness. I'm not sure you're aware, but it's an app. It's a separate business that I own, and we have a free 14-day trial link down below. And if that doesn't interest you, we could still support you and your fitness journey over on Patreon. And in return, you can help us keep this YouTube channel going. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you. I look forward to reading your comments down below, and I will see you next video. Then you want to stick around to this episode of Ask PJ Anything. We're going to talk about lunges as well as a couple of others really cool topics that, hey, you might not even know about. Nope, that's dumb.